to be honest with you too, I think that was probably the biggest moment for De'Aaron Fox in his career,
Mm,
where
you see
you piggybacked a team. You said, "I'm going to take you home."
that. Mm,
And to me, that was one of the most spectacular performances. He showed that night, anyone who was watching, I am just as good as any of these other All Stars.
yeah.
And it just flat out, like, you want to talk about Kyrie, you want to talk about Luca, you want to even talk about Domas, I'm the guy.
Mm,
And like, what a performance by him. And I think something that people miss, that was the third game in 4 nights. There was a
mhm.
back to back. I mean, the Kings, not only was it the third game in 4 nights, but the first game was in Houston. He's coming off the birth of his son. He's got all kinds of crazy sleep patterns and things going on. His off the court life is wild. His last 3 games, he's combined to score 100 points. And that's just like, he's shown up. He figured it out. He locked in and he figured out, like, if we're going to be this team in this time, I've got to go out and be this player. And what he basically won 2 games out of the 3. And his performance, 26 points in the fourth quarter and overtime session combined, 8 free throws made in the overtime session, 14 points in the overtime session, which is an all-time Kings record that broke Page's record from, I think it's 2001 in Brooklyn. Yeah, he's absolutely well deserving of that All-Star spot, and I'm really happy for him that he had that kind of performance against big time players.
And that's not even mentioning James, what he did on Friday in the loss. They didn't lose because of him. 33 on the night, did everything he could late in that game to bring him up on both sides of the floor, right? Like he was scoring, and I thought the defense that he played on Kyrie Irving when they were trying to make a little mini comeback in that fourth quarter, I thought that was potentially, if they could have hit a couple other shots, that would have been one of the stories if they were able to come back and win that game that night. So he is playing as well as he's ever played in his career. He is. I talked about it. I think last week or maybe the last time when you guys were when we were all together, and it's just like he's at a place where it's all come together. Like it's his mental is there. He knows exactly what he wants to do on the floor, the spots he wants to get to, the shots that are his shots. Like he has go-to moves, go-to shots, go-to spots on the floor, and he knows how to get there, and nobody can stop him right now. And then you talk about what he does in the fourth quarter, and now that just elevates the profile because now you're doing it when them lights are on, and
Mhm.
you're not afraid, man. I've never seen him play this good before.
Yeah, at the end of the third quarter on Saturday night, I think I even tweeted out the Kings are going to need fourth quarter Fox if they're going to win this one. And sure enough, I mean, my goodness, he was so good. Yeah, just, he's got this ability to go wherever he wants on the court, and it's very few players. And if you really talk, like, Kyrie is that guy as well. He can get wherever he wants. That layup that Kyrie hit late in the game was just spectacular. That's an interesting vibe too around that team. I just tell you that the Dallas Mavericks are like a very very strange experiment that's happening, and there are a lot of players there that were very excited on Friday night that Kyrie was the guy leading him into the game and not Luca.
Mhm.
And he's a guy that I think eventually there will be a moment where you have to make a decision on, like, revamping rosters and stuff, because I don't think a lot of players love to play alongside him. It's just too much him,
Uh,
and it's tough.
Let me ask you about while we're talking about Dallas real
Mhm.
quick, Ham. Like, did your thoughts about them change over the weekend? Because it did for me. I saw
Me too.
what they could be with the way they played. I mean, you got Kyrie and Luca, and then you got the way that offense runs. Where I talked about it earlier, James. They know they want to get the corner threes, and they get them. They get the corner threes all the time. And if Josh Green is hitting, Christian Wood is doing something off the bench. This team, I thought before we saw them play a game that the ceiling of what they could be was raised when they got Kyrie, but I had to see it, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, they got a little something. They got something."
They do. Like, if you let Kyrie run the offense for long stretches, I think they're still trying to figure out, like, their substitution patterns in the first game, and that's what we're seeing. Like, the first game with those two together, the Kings really got like a look at it. And late in the game, they're running a 2-man game. Like that was incredible. Like that team has a ton of potential, but on top of that, they got a bunch of pieces they got to fill out. You had good games from JaVale McGee. You had good games from Christian Wood. Yeah, like some of those guys like stepped up, but like those aren't anchors for the franchise that are going to be there long term. The two guys that are going to be there, I think, in their mind, hopefully for their sake, is Kyrie and Luca, and they're going to have to find ways to make them like how to stay on the court together, especially late in the game. And if you're the Kings, like you're smiling, like go ahead, Fox, do whatever you want. You're going up against Luca and Kyrie. On one end, it's very difficult. On the other end, it's not at all. Like those guys aren't great defenders, and you can do a lot of different things against them. So yeah, I mean, we're only seeing the beginning of that team. Who knows where they end up, especially with Kyrie being a free agent this summer. But there's potential there. They just need a bunch of other pieces. They kind of need like Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie back in order to make that whole thing work. They need another scorer. They need another defender, and that's kind of where I thought watching them play on both Friday and Saturday. And
Oh, they
shout out to my guy Gary St. Jean. Oh
yeah.
man, like people should know, Gary St. Jean is one of the absolute gems of the NBA. He's one of the nicest men you're ever going to meet, and his son, Greg St. Jean, who used to be a development coach for the Kings, is like Jason Kidd's right hand man in Dallas. He's an up and coming coach. But to see Gary there both on Friday and Saturday night, former Kings head coach that led the Kings to the 95-96 playoffs, and just really one of the genuine, like amazing dudes you're going to run into.